welcome to TalkFCB and welcome back here to the channel, guys. Today we are going to be talking Barcelona's increasingly worrying form. We are going to be putting a magnifying glass over our performances, where it's going wrong, and we're going to be analysing exactly how we can turn it around, because with the games we got coming up and the rest of the season to come, we need to find answers. We need to do it now. And first of all, guys, it's only fair that we do run over our results from February so far, because there will be some people here who are saying, look, there's nothing wrong, we're fine, we're doing fine, we're just about getting over the line, we beat Valverde, we drew against Lyon, we could have won that game, but at the end of the day, you can't keep ignoring the same mistakes. If we're going to have a successful season, and we still can, make no mistake about that, but to do that, you've got to find out what you're doing wrong and put that right. In February so far, we started off a 2-2 draw against Valencia, 2-0 down in that game, we got back to draw it, we drew against Real Madrid, that was a difficult performance from us, it was a bad display away at Athletic Club, a 0-0 draw, we just about scraped past Valverde, and yesterday a goalless draw against Lyon, just 2 goals scored in our last 4 games. That is not the way that Barcelona plays. And just think back to our final game of January. It was the very end of January, just days before that Valencia game, the 6-1 demolition comeback against Sevilla in the Copa del Rey. How good were we on that day? How much intensity did we show? How much hunger did we really bring to the table in that game? That's what we can do. That is the quality that we have. That is what we can do to a top team right there. We have to bring that back. We've got to find a way of finding that team, finding that level of performance, and finding that confidence again. And it all starts here. Valverde has big decisions to make. But look, guys, this is not a video all about negativity. I want to keep everybody in good spirits here, because like I say, we can still have a successful season. And the first positive I'll give you is we're encountering this now. We are having a bad February, which is not ideal, but it's not a disaster. It would be much worse if we had a disaster March or a disaster April. When you're into the quarterfinals, providing we get there, that's when you don't want to slip up. We need to be hitting our A game in March, in April, and then in May, hopefully, if we're still in the competition by then. We want to be hitting our top form there. So to be hitting some bad form now is not the end of the world, simply because we can get this back. We can correct things. We're not knocked out of anything yet. We haven't had any disasters yet. So what we can do is use this time now, learn our lessons, ready for the bigger test to come, because believe me, it gets harder. In our upcoming games, we now have Sevilla away from home at the Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan, where we have already lost so far this season. That'll be coming on Saturday, a vital game in La Liga. Just 4 days after that, Real Madrid away in the Copa del Rey at the Santiago Bernabeu, with the score tied at 1-1. That is going to be a big game and a tough one there against Real Madrid. And then, just 3 days after that, the League Clasico, again at the Santiago Bernabeu, in yet another key game, which will be at the start of March, and hopefully a win in that game could set us up nicely for the month to come. And I'm not even done with the positives yet. There are more that I'll bring you, and it's regard to injuries and players returning. Number 1, Samuel Umtiti. He was on the bench yesterday. He didn't play the game. I think that was wise. I think he should have been thrown back in a big game like last night's was. Longley and Piqué were pretty decent. The defence wasn't really the issue yesterday, but the good news is Samuel Umtiti now is back in full training. He's back with the squad. He's included in the squad list. He is now going to be integrated back in this team, providing that everything goes smoothly, providing he doesn't suffer any relapses. He should be back in this team, and with him at the centre of defence, there's no doubt about it, he improves Barcelona. And even more important for me, we have to discuss Arthur Melo. Without him this month, we have absolutely crumbled. He was injured in that Copa del Rey game against Real Madrid, and since then, our midfield has been catastrophically bad. There's been no balance there, there's been no element of control. Arthur is vitally important. If you didn't realise it before, we certainly realise it now. This man is absolutely massive to our entire team and our entire system. Arthur right now has returned to training outside. He's out of the gym. He's back on the training field. He's hoping now in the coming days to start training again with the ball, and then in time integrating back in with the group for full training with his teammates. And according to local media reports, he is targeting the game against Real Madrid at the Santiago Bernabeu in the league, obviously a week on Saturday. That is what he's targeting. He wants to return in time for that game. If he does that, he would have returned ahead of schedule. And like I say, Arthur back in this team, it changes everything. Now we move on to the negatives and exactly what we need to do do right now to turn around our fortunes? Number one has to be about Luis Suarez. And again, I'll say it, I love Suarez, I love his personality, I love his style of play, but at the same time, even I can acknowledge he is woeful right now. And it really hurts me to say that because Suarez is a guy who always gives it all. But yesterday, he was probably trying a little bit too hard. He was really trying to make things happen. He was getting on the ball probably too much. Every time he got the ball, he was trying to do too much. You could see there that his legs were moving before his brain could even register that he was on the ball. And more often than not, he found himself caught up in his own feet. He was falling over himself. It was almost embarrassing to watch from Suarez yesterday. He was getting the basic errors very wrong indeed, and he was breaking down our attacks. What you do with that is, you take him out the firing line. You give Suarez a rest, you give somebody else coming on a chance, you refresh the team, and what you do, you just give Suarez a chance to recover some form, recover some condition, and come back stronger. He does not deserve to be in this team, and not only that, but he doesn't deserve to stay in this team and keep getting that constant criticism because he should be taken out the firing line. Valverde will be doing Suarez a favour by taking him out the team for 1, 2, maybe even 3 games, just giving him a chance to recapture all of that hunger, his best level, and then come back stronger. We need something different right now. Valverde has to be brave enough to enforce it. And there's 2 very easy ways to do that in the coming games. I think Malcolm has to surely play some part against Sevilla on Saturday. He hasn't played, like I say, not a single minute since his goal against Real Madrid. And what I would do is like this, 4-3-3. You've got Carlos Alenia in midfield alongside Rakitic, Busquets there. Messi in false 9, able to roam, able to be central, which he does anyway. He doesn't often play on the right. Even if he starts there, he comes inside. So why not play Malcolm here instead of somebody like Sergio Roberto? Malcolm will actually exploit the space. Malcolm will actually be a threat on that right-hand side, and Dembele on the left. You can't tell me there that front 3 will not cause most teams a good deal of problems. Without Suarez there, it's more fluid. The attacks are certainly not going to be broken down as often, and there's certainly there a lot more pace on the break. There's also the option, of course, to do something like this, which is something that Valverde really doesn't seem to want to do, and I don't really understand why. You've got Rakitic and Busquets holding, 2 players who Valverde really likes to play, and in those kind of roles. But then what you have is Coutinho from the left here, Dembele from the right, Messi there in a 10, again, centrally, where he likes to be, and then this could be Boateng, or it could even be Luis Suarez. It doesn't really matter. If you really have to play Suarez, if you want to play him, then at least play him ahead of 3 very quality attacking players who can give you pace, who can get in behind, who can really exploit the space, and then maybe you can actually have Suarez here just simply there to finish the chances. The problem yesterday was Suarez was getting too involved in the build-up, he was dropping deep, he was disrupting play. You don't want him to do that right now. On current form, say to Suarez, just stay there. Just stay there, stay in the box, play as a poacher. When something comes your way, try and finish it. You let Coutinho do his job, you let Dembele do his job, you let Messi have the ball here, and with 4 attacking players like that, you could say to Suarez, your only job right now is to occupy those 2 centre-backs. Don't do anything else. Don't get involved in the build-up. For once, we don't want a striker to get so involved. Just leave it to the rest of us. We know what we're doing. But the problem is, Valverde doesn't like 4-2-3-1. When he was at Athletic Bilbao, he loved it. He played it all the time. But here, even though it would benefit Coutinho from that left-hand side, Dembele from the right, Messi nice and central, he just doesn't want to do it simply because it looks too attack-minded for him. And on the very subject of Coutinho and indeed Dembele, Valverde for me has to get one thing really clear, and it's basically understanding the players that he has at his disposal, because for me it has to be one or the other sometimes and not both, and Valverde doesn't seem to get that. For instance, for me it has to be Semedo or Roberto, not Semedo and Roberto ever on the same pitch, just like it should be Ivan Rakitic or Arturo Vidal, not Rakitic and Vidal on the pitch together. When you've got similar players, similar characteristics, similar profiles, you can't play them together. You have to have balance. That's why we missed Arthur so much, because he gives our entire team, and especially that midfield, it gives it so much balance. Without that, you've got Valverde playing very similar types of players, and yet when it comes to Dembele and Coutinho, it's always one or the other. It's Dembele off, it's Coutinho on. It's Coutinho off, Dembele on. Never Coutinho in the midfield, Dembele in the attack. Never does he try the 2 together, and for me, he has to understand this team better. He has to understand his players, their characteristics, because quite simply, in the lineups and the selections and the subs, sometimes he just doesn't seem to get it. But I do maintain, guys, believe me, we can still have a successful season. There's no doubt about that. Like I say, this is all happening in February. What we do now is we lay everything down, we analyse everything, we get everything right. In March, in April, in May, we are ready to go. We are ready to strike back. We do the right things at the right times. Players are returning. Hopefully, we correct our mistakes. Big game against Sevilla. Sevilla, massive games against Real Madrid, all of that coming up very, very soon indeed, guys. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Try and stay as positive as you can, even though sometimes it isn't that easy. I'll see you soon, but until then, as always, Visca El Barça!